Hi, this is Tina Powell, host of In the Suite, where I sit down with top women leaders and some of the biggest names in the financial services and the wealth management industry. Together, we'll discover some of their best secrets and top strategies to grow a great business, build a strong brand, and lead teams in the 21st century. I hope you'll enjoy hearing their amazing personal stories of triumph, trepidation, and transformation in hopes of becoming better leaders ourselves. The time for you to lead is now, and you're in the suite. Nearly 10 years ago, Laxmi Ramanath founded a risk and compliance software company called Lemire Inc. Lemire gets its namesake from Laxmi herself and her daughter Mira, who, as the company's first employee, held the CMO role as Chief Mischief Officer at the ripe old age of 4. Fast forward to today, Laxmi has evolved Lemire to be a global fintech firm and one of the most innovative RegTech companies, having been named to the coveted RegTech 100 list in 2021. Laxmi created Lemire in 2010 to help organizations address the profound regulatory changes after the financial crisis of 2008. She has over 25 years of worldwide experience in building complex financial market systems, and she's an expert on worldwide financial markets, capital markets, banking, and market regulations. Laxmi brought her vision, passion, and deep financial markets experience into creating Lemire's GRACE Solutions, an acronym for governance, risk, and compliance for the enterprise. Lemire's products address the latest regulatory compliance expectations, risk management, and client management needs in banks, broker-dealers, wealth advisors, hedge funds, and pensions. Before Lemire, Laxmi worked at Citigroup, Silicon Valley Bank, and CMC Limited on complex application systems for online trading, credit data warehouse, integrated treasury derivatives processing systems, internet banking for private banking, and corporate banking. She has a bachelor's degree in physics from the University of Bombay and an MBA from Jamanal Institute of Management Studies at University of Bombay, which would later serve as the backbone of building and implementing stock market systems for trading, settlement, clearing, and auctions. And get ready for this. Laxmi project managed the phase 2 of the Bombay Stock Exchange trade reporting and matching system and was the requirements and design specialist for the prestigious Bombay Stock Exchange online trading system Bolt. Tolerant tandem system. Subsequently, she was also the project manager for Product Vector that was developed on Unix for smaller stock exchanges in India. And it's currently run in about 12 exchanges in India, Kuwait, and Bangladesh. There's more. For nearly 14 years, Laxmi has been a member of Premia, the Professional Risk Managers International Association in San Francisco, and she's an active member of 100 Women in Finance, as well as the National Society for Compliance Professionals, where she mentors young, emerging female talent in science, technology, and finance. In fact, one of the many gifts you'll discover about Laxmi Ramanath in this episode is her remarkable journey to risk management. After witnessing the repercussions of the global recession, Laxmi felt that somehow she needed to contribute and to help what she calls the common man. In Laxmi's words, a poorly run financial organization can land the common man a huge risk. But that's only one side of the equation. This fintech superpower of a woman who helped automate the Bombay Stock Exchange was also inspired by her daughter Mira and discovered life through snack shacks, piano, choir, and dance classes. Today, that 4-year CMO is now majoring in mechanical engineering and minoring in economics, eventually following her mother's path in the suite. So, Laxmi Ramanath, wow, take a seat in the suite. Happy New Year. I'm so excited. I'm thrilled to welcome you. This is our first broadcast for 2021. Thanks for being here. I've been looking forward to this episode for such a while. How are you doing today?
I'm doing so well. Thank you so much, Tina, for including me on this call. And I really want to wish everybody a wonderful new year of good health and happiness first, as well as one of great opportunities and possibilities that I think we are all looking forward to.
Yeah, that what a wonderful way to phrase it too, because we are so honored and appreciative of the fact that you would take your time to share your amazing story and background here, Laxmi. I cannot wait because after all, it's really super impressive and it's particularly inspiring to women who want a career in fintech. So nearly 10 years ago, you founded Lemire Inc., a Silicon Valley, California-based risk management solutions company for financial institution. And I want to mention that your company, Lemire, is global. You have operations in the United States, Canada, UK, and in Europe. And Lemire's Grace suite of solutions, which is your premier offering here, provides an integrated web-based approach to governance, risk, and compliance. And I also should mention that you are based here in the US in San Francisco. So why don't we start it from there? I would love to learn, and I never had the chance to ask you a T3. What's the genesis for starting Lemire? I want to know the meaning behind the name. So, take us back to March of 2010 when you founded your company.
Thank you, Tina. And, it's been an incredible journey with Lemire. Lemire stands for Laxmi, me, and my daughter Meera, who gave me the reason to start the firm. So my daughter Meera was young and had a great corporate life as a high-end career woman. But I realized that my daughter would grow up too soon, and I wanted to treasure my time with her. She's now a sophomore doing mechanical engineering, and I have enjoyed this great journey of discovery of life thanks to her and the pivot I took to my career and life with Lemire. So it's been a great journey. I've been thrilled every minute of my journey, going to her softball games, cheering from the bench, managing snack shacks, taking her to piano lessons, her choir performances, and dance classes and quiz bowl contests. Have been there for every little milestone, every large milestone, and learned so much and enjoyed every bit of it. And I think it has been, thanks to my daughter for having given me that experience of life. And she was my, as I called her, mischief executive officer when we started, when she was like a 4-year-old.
That is such an amazing story. Wow, to think about it. Look, I'm a mother of a daughter and a son, and my daughter is our technical assistant right now on this podcast.
Absolutely.
So I know. I love it that she's, we're getting to share all of these stories.
Yeah, somewhere along the lines, the fact that I'm doing all this has also inspired her. So she's doing mechanical engineering, and I come from the physics background, and I think, and my husband is an electrical engineer. So I think between the three of us, we are all geeks. But she's also taken on to finance in a big way, and she's looking to do a minor in economics and possibly take a career in finance. So in a way, I've managed to inspire her as well to do a young girl to inspire something in finance, which is critical to all of us.
Yeah. And also too, you've got that finance and the technology, which is again, reason why I wanted to have you here in the suite, because I know one of the things we're going to be talking about is how you got started and how you built an incredible global fintech firm. Before we get to that, so I know that you also wanted to tell us and wanted to share a story about Lemire going back to the financial crisis. So do you want to talk a little bit about that origin story?
Absolutely. And it is, to me, the most important story of my life and what drove me to, creating these organizations, to creating Lemire. 2008 financial crisis was a very, incredible point of time that really made me realize the whole repercussion of all of us in the financial markets and what we could do to the common man. We all have responsibilities to that in many ways. And to me, the fallout on the common man, the horrible repercussions of loss of houses, loss of jobs, loss of retired portfolios, and many aspects of that story really drove me to to building this organization. A poorly managed financial organization can actually land a common man at huge risk. That was what it taught me and what made me think, what is that we can do to stop that from happening, right? And that
Right.
was my beginning of my journey into risk management. And I thought risk management was a very, very important aspect of financial organization that I need to be able to somehow contribute to. And I, coming out of the thoroughbred background that I have on capital markets and banking as a business analyst and a technologist, my mind started to work on, hey, we do have a problem here that risk management and compliance is done so poorly. Consumers are not being protected because these organizations are doing this job not so well. And how can we do this? How can we do this in a sensible way that we can help all our organizations put the proper process in place for consumer protection? To me, the driver of all this is consumer protection, and how can we do all of financial organizations do this well? And that's kind of where I started. That's where my thought process started. And I started to study the Basel II capital adequacy protections and operational risk requirements for banks. Coming out of a big bank, to me, my mind always goes in those directions as to, hey, what are the regulations? What are the best practices in the market? How do we do this, right? So I started off with that thought process, and with Basel II as the background, and I started to create an enterprise risk assessment framework. I said, organizations need to assess risk across their business functions, their compliance requirements, their IT and vendor risks, and all of their business processes in a standardized way. Understand what are the risks to this organization, and if you understand the organizational risk and what are the risks to your clients, then you might be able to manage it in a better way, right? If you don't know what risks and violations exist within the organization, you are not going to be able to put together a method to mitigate it. And you can see that how it has played out in many ways. Many financial organizations have had a reputation damage because of the compliance violations, the lack of risk management in those organizations, and it has really denuded the confidence of people with financial organizations. Right? You've seen that happen over these years from the 2008, and to me, those became the big drivers of our products. To create visibility and transparency to risks within the organization is a key driver, and that is the reason we built our great solutions along those theories.
Now, I was going to say that what I find, well, first of all, you make it sound so easy that you took a problem that was plaguing a lot of individuals after the financial crisis, and you could see that a lot of the times that people were in these situations or consumers were in these situations because of a lack of proper risk management. As you approach this, and we're going to talk about Grace, right, which is your suite of solutions products, which Grace stands for governance, risk, and compliance for the enterprise. Laxmi, now, in order to create something, in order to create this entire entity, which is, for me, it's like building Star Wars or like, an entire battle star here. Being that you're global, and you had to have an understanding of technology and risk management, did you look at a particular, where you just built it first in the US and then you scaled it and adapted it for different countries?
Yes, absolutely. But, being in the US, I've now been here 20 years. And for me, US was the first market. And I kept looking at only the regulations within the US. The Dodd-Frank rolled out, how the Congress debated all of the issues that came out of the crisis, and everything about the Dodd-Frank, and how the SEC and FINRA and the OCC as financial regulators, what were they looking for in these organizations. And I've been very, very keen about following those processes that are for the US. So my intention was never to go global. I mean, it was out of sheer, coincidence that now I have landed up in the last 3 years to become a global organization. So, all of the work that I did was for the US market. I started to look at the banks and the failures and the operational risk processes, of course, going from the Basel II. And then incidentally, as a small vendor, it becomes difficult for me to break into large banks. And that led me into the whole journey of thinking, how do I, work with, and given I have a capital markets and a banking background, I switched into capital markets very, naturally by the fact that I joined the 100 Women in Finance. And as I was listening in and organizing, helping events on regulatory compliance at that point in time, I realized many of these people, organizations don't have solutions that through a technology that can enable them. And that's how it led me into the journey of compliance management for the hedge funds, the broker dealer, the trade monitoring, the AML, the client management process, the life cycle client management process. They were all natural to me because I came from those kind of backgrounds, and each of them evolved me into the next area of work and was all driven by the regulatory frameworks in the US. But the interesting thing that happened was the whole DOL fiduciary rule. We built the client management suite for the DOL fiduciary rule way back in 2016. Yeah, I was just supposed to come out at that time, and it did not happen. So at some point in time, I was trying to figure out what to do with my client management suite, and incidentally, MiFID II had happened or was declared in the European market, and I went through the regulations at that point in time. That was the first time I was exploring the European market, and the regulations were exactly the same. And I said, bingo, we have an opportunity here. And that was my foray into Europe and my extensive travels into London and Europe to establish markets there. And when I went in through the whole process, I realized everything that we are talking about here in the US from a regulatory point of view is exactly applicable into the European market. And now I see the Canadian market is exactly the same. And I'm now hearing, same kind of needs from Australia, Singapore, and so many other areas that, from a worldwide regulation point of view, it's all fundamentally the same. It's customer protection, right? And how do people manage their risks, and are these organizations that are helping or financial institutions that are serving the consumers, are they having the right process in place for internal risk management and managing their clients without putting risks on them? So in a fundamental way, it was the same thing. And so it's very cool. Interesting. Yeah, it's just, that various markets were in various states of, their own recognition of these problems. But, given the fact that the global crisis happened and everybody was affected, has led to this kind of a unified approach to, regulation. They do have little nuances that are different from each other, but it is still fundamentally all of them need the same set of things, which is how do you monitor, compliance within the organization? How do you protect your consumers? How do you make sure that your data is protected? And, given the data privacy rules, and given, how market has become so data driven and the social media and everything else, I think fundamentally, things that are needed are the same everywhere worldwide. And US is in many ways a leader of the pack in terms of regulations. Somewhere the SEC enforcements are good and sets the rules very clearly for people. And all the other, as I see it, London and US are key in terms of how ahead they are on regulations. And all the rest of the markets are catching up very quickly, and they're all there in almost talking the same language for their consumer protection.
So one of the things, and I have the biggest smile on my face right now, Laxmi, because how much time do you have to spend going through these regulations? I remember I was at a conference, this goes back years ago when Dodd-Frank was just, introduced. And I remember that they literally printed out all of the pages of the Dodd-Frank. And it was like higher. It was like, as high as the person standing. How are you able to consume like vast amounts of, I'm so curious, right? Because it's a skill that I so don't have, right? That long form reading, I tap out way, way, way before I would get to even Dodd-Frank. So how is it that you're able to, just keep up with all of these rules and regulations, because they're so hard to disseminate and keep up? How do you do it?
In a funny way, it's become my day in life. Every day morning as I get up, I will go there and, look at all of the different alerts that come from various places. And it takes me about an hour to kind of read and digest. And, it's a very fascinating time because your mind is agog, trying to read and understand, hey, what are they saying? How are
Yeah.
they planning to do this? How was SEC thinking about this particular violation? Why are they thinking that this is a violation? How do organizations need to, address this? It's a very interesting time in the day for me that when I read tons of things from various angles of it, whether it comes from Europe, it comes from Canada, it comes from Australia. What are the regulators saying? SEC, of course, the SEC, FINRA, OCC to me are the primary places where I look for information, and all of the alerts from various investment news, advisor portals. I just read enormously in that 1 hour, and my mind is all agog and conceptualizing, hey, if this is the problem, how do I solve this? How do I help people solve this, right? And to me, that's how I do it. I read every single day. I read. I'm always fascinated by it. So
This is so great. I just love it. I mean, you're like my Google of compliance. I'm really good here. So I have to ask, what has you really excited, or what has your eye right now? What do you totally like, whether or not it's current or whether or not it's in the future?
it's two, three things, and to me, that's the state of the market and how I see what SEC and FINRA are looking for, and in these organizations, the OCI risk alerts actually talk about it a lot, and to me, there's a lot of risks in the market given our COVID situation, and how all of us are positioned, work from home, fraud risk, money laundering risk, cybersecurity risk, and of course consumer protection above and beyond everything else. For me, that's the primary thing. So you don't want unsuitable products to be sold to retirees. So Reg BI to me is like my core of what I feel and believe. Make sure that retirees are not going to be swindled of their life's earnings, or that deficiency doesn't hit them, because to me this is a time of churn, this is a time of volatility, this is a time of unknown things, right? From we don't have a regular organization in action in place. The proper oversights can't be done because everybody's working from home, and many different aspects of that can lead into risks for the common man, right? We already, as common people, have the risk of the financial breakdown given COVID, and not inability for people to earn their incomes and live a life. So these are the risks that I see, and in that process, I would definitely want to have that fraud protection for all of us. Make sure that people like common man on the street is not swindled of their money. To me, that's primary. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about COVID and how it affects your technology. And so I'd love it how you always trace it back to the common man. And for those listeners right now in the suite, what Laxmi is referring to is known as regulation best interest. They're calling it Reg BI for short. And they're basically making sure that financial products that are recommended to I love it, the common man, I'll use Laxmi's phrase, is that indeed was the right recommendation. It is suitable for that person. So as it relates to COVID, can you explain a little bit about what your response was through your organization? I'm particularly enamored with the fact that you have a global organization, and here you are a female leader of a fintech firm. So take us back just the last couple months. How did you keep it all together during a crisis?
It was a very funny, state of affairs and this year when we began, we were out as a family, holidaying in India, and I was helping my dad with his knee replacement surgery. And I, by by sheer luck, I left India on February 20th, and all hell broke loose after that when I traveled back here. The COVID had actually hit, and by March of this year, we've all been in the situation, right, from COVID. And so I had not, but suddenly, and I was trying to gather myself up and saying, what do we do, right?
Yeah.
And it was like for a month or so, we were all like, trying to figure ourselves out, right? And I have always worked with this vision of Lemire and its products as a cloud-based solution that would people can work from anywhere they want, and continue to do what they have to do, and digitization and our ability to create a uniform integrated workflow that they can all use. Everything, click on a button, pop into the next. So for example, a advisor writing into the compliance officer can handle his stuff. He can do the AML, click on a button, trade monitoring, click on a button, and integrate. So that was my vision of the products in the first place, and we built it along those lines. And come COVID, and now the need actually happened that everybody needed a cloud solution rather than a in-house solution that they would have had in their office, that they would have been using for all these years, and there would have been hesitation to change because we all have constraints of money, and everybody's living in their Excel world, and there was no need for this excessive amount of monitoring that if you had all your staff within your company, within your physical premise. Now with this COVID, everything changed, and people had to be enabling all of these same services in a different way, coming out of their home, having their own internet, and no cybersecurity protection possibly on, because they're all not IT staff, but individuals who are working from home. And many of those things changed, and we were very well positioned for it. I mean, fortunately, that we had the vision that we had actually played out, and every product that we have created has made a lot more sense now than even before. Even before, people could still live in their Excel worlds, and the organization could say, okay, fine, but not now, because now you don't know, every of your key personnel is somewhere around, and how do you create a integrated data in your organization for you to know what are the processes being done, what are the processes not being done, how do you manage any customer fraud, how do you make sure that your cybersecurity is not violated? How do you manage your vendor risk? Vendors are trying to cope in their own way to the whole problem. There's sometimes sudden spike in terms of data volumes that have to be handled by the vendor. Because now there's instead of 4 people, there's 2 people left in the organization. Their own financial situations. It was a lot of dynamics that happened with COVID, and fortunately, our solutions were all in the right areas that needed that help, that needed to be done, and it had and enabling a cloud solution for staff is the most easiest thing for us to do. And I think that was it really was something that I thought was a God-given opportunity. I'm sorry to say, but COVID actually helped us a lot more, and given the sad situation, but in many ways I thought that this was one way we could help.
Hey, listeners, you can now join our text-based community and text me directly at 201-581-3983 to join our community in the suite. After you do that, I'll be lifting you up, inspiring you, and supercharging your life and your career with awesome quotes, resources, videos, and tips we get from our great guests. It couldn't be any easier. Just text 201-581-3983 to join. Is the output of Lemire a both prescriptive and tells an enterprise exactly what to do to get into compliance? And my follow-up question to that, is your company actually doing those activities to get an enterprise into compliance?
Yes, we are a technology company, so we are not prescriptive in the sense that we don't provide the legal kind of advice and the regulatory kind of advice. So what we do is we partner with compliance advisors, and they are the subject matter expert on the absolute regulation and such other functions. But what we do really well is the fact that these are all the processes you need to have in place. For example, you need to have these policies and procedures that you need to tell your staff what to do in this new situation, right? So we have a repository. We create a single source of truth for all of the policies of the organization in this cloud situation, in the cloud model. So from an ability to access that, what is the latest procedure is available to the staff. Now, to take it to the next step, if you think about it, how do you teach your staff what to do, right? So policies and procedures
Exactly.
tend to be very monotonous and people kind of gloss over it, right? So whereas if you say create attestation templates and send it out to them and say, hey, this is the process you need to follow from now on. For example, checking your customer for AML, or this is the right product to sell to these kind of clients. So you would have the ability to do attestation and teach your staff how to do it. Online training, how to train your staff. So you put your own business process into a presentation and we can help them convert it into an online training where all the staff can be trained from the cloud situation, and you can know which of your staff needs what kind of training, what do they do, have they finished the training, do they know what to do in this kind of situation, is something that you can do through the tool. And that's a very important way of helping all your people know the new dynamics and know the new ways, new procedures that you need to follow. For example, in the Reg BI, all of the reps now need to know how do you record your notes on what products you are selecting to give to your clients. And the note keeping is part of our system. So if you enable it, reps can then actually keep those notes and send it to compliance, and compliance can see it and say, yes, this is right or this is wrong. So don't do this for this particular client of this client risk profile. And you can enable all of these processes for all of the staff and help them to be in compliance. So it's a more of establishing the process correctly, and we do that pretty well. So whether it be even risk assessments of vendors, so you can quickly send a questionnaire, create a questionnaire, send a questionnaire online for those vendors to say, hey, we have these processes in place, we don't have these processes in place. And for that organization to say, okay, everybody's having difficulty, we understand that you don't have certain things, can we correct this, can we remedy this, can we kind of make this better. And it allows all of us to make things better for everybody, right? And that is what I think Grace as a tool set has been able to enable for organizations.
Because especially that third party vendor risk management is something that the regulators have really hit upon. And then, Lemire, you come in with workflows, standard operating procedures, cloud-based solutions that anyone could access in a work from home environment. Mm-hmm. So it must be one of the many reasons why Lemire was now your company is a RegTech 100 company. So congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so you are one of the world's top 100 regulatory technology companies to be watched in 2021. We're going to put a link on the show notes because, wow, this is really super impressive. So again, one of our goals here in the suite, ladies and gentlemen, is because Laxmi obviously she's got extreme technical knowledge. And I think our goal is for you to walk away with knowing something or discovering a new fact and a new appreciation for the world, the complexity of the world of financial services. But more importantly, fundamentally, you're trying to solve the problem. And that is that how do we make the outcomes better for the common man? So I wondered if you can just spend a few minutes for people who aren't familiar with the term, what RegTech means.
Thank you, Tina. That is, thank you for appreciating us for the RegTech 100, and I'm very thankful for the recognition and for all the work we have done and the vision we bring into the products. To explain RegTech as a term, this term has actually come in the past 3-4 years after all the regulatory changes have come up from the 2008 crisis. So what has happened is with Dodd-Frank and all of the different regulations that rolled out to help address the consumer protection aspect of regulations, there have been deep expectations of organizations to show that they really are doing their risk and compliance management processes, and then these number of regulations have become pretty large worldwide, okay, whether it be US, UK, everywhere. And what has also happened is that the regulators are now expecting a lot more comprehensive regulatory reporting on a lot of data and proof that there's proper oversight and monitoring happening. There are banks in London who have a 5,000 people internal controls team that is helping put together the data that is needed for, monitoring the controls and also creating data that's needed for regulatory reporting. So these are a lot of people there, and there's a lot of cost for organizations as well, right? If you
Yeah.
now look at it from the other way, regulators are now also equipped with high-end technology, big data-based data collection from these reports, and this has all happened after the crisis. Everybody reorganized themselves, right? So now regulators have data from all of these regulatory reports that these organizations have to do, and loaded up into these big data systems that can see the trends in these organizations. They can compare them against others in the industry, and red flag organizations that are having the violations seem obvious, right? If you're talking about a return of 20% when the average return in the industry is 8%, then obviously there is something to be looked at to how you're claiming that you're getting 20% return, and look into it and see whether what you're saying is something to be believed in or something that's looking like a fraud. And that helps the examiners to come equipped to your organization with data about your organization's risky behavior, and really conduct risk-based examinations that are pretty intense. Now, if organizations have to face those examinations from examiners with their deep data sets on you, you have to be prepared, right? You really have to be prepared inside your organization. Now, what it means is that for you to be organized, you need not just the people to do the job, but they also have to have people and the processes, but also have to have tools. And that is the genesis of the term RegTech. That is technology that can help regulatory compliance. And it's been, again, market maturing. First, as soon as the regulations came out, people were put on the job. Lots of people were there doing the job, but it still never allowed them to have a coordinated view of data that says how many risks of what kind do you have in the organization. And then sooner or later people realize, hey, technology can help. And that's kind of how this whole term RegTech has come up as a genesis of that. And also in the recent last 4 years, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and natural language processing (NLP) have become buzzwords, and people have been able to use those technologies to create, solutions around where there's large amount of data, and you want to see, patterns of violations, and help the compliance office to get some alerts on any violations that are there in the patterns. So people have started to build a lot of different tool use cases around, data, and using AI, machine learning, NLP to identify patterns of bad behavior. And so those have also added into the buzzword AI, buzzword RegTech, where technology can be used to solve some of the regulatory compliance problems. So that's kind of the genesis of RegTech.
Yeah. So I'm hearing from you that the amount of data, the fact that we have all of this data now, and the emergence of machine learning, NLP, natural language processing, and a whole host of other buzzwords that I know that you can rattle off. Yeah. You have a BS in physics. You have an MBA in systems management from the University of Bombay. I'm interested, these terms, while for people like me, Laxmi, that we weren't talking about AI and machine learning back then, but, if you could kind of take us back, you worked at Citicorp Information Technology Industries as a senior consultant. You were with Citibank London, Citibank Singapore, Citibank India, in areas like treasury, derivatives, processing, equity research, credit data warehousing, internet banking, depositories. And now we're talking about AI and machine learning. How does this all come together? Is it the stuff that you learn on the job, and just keeping up with reading things? How do you stay ahead of all of the trends that are happening now and have real language that, as a corporate leader, you understand and you totally get it?
I would say, my fundamental, the bachelor degree in physics, I would say, is my backbone. But it has been, it has led me into computers. and it has allowed me to think logically through complex business problems. And my MBA, in many ways, gave me a way to look at business and the big picture and understand the business needs pretty deeply. So I think it's a combination of that mindset that got created when I was really young that allows me to wade through various things, right? It really allows me to wade through complex business functionality, people, and then see how can you adapt technology to help solve that problem. So it allows me to think both ways, a functional person and the technology person. So I'm a functional technologist, as you can call it. And to me it's always, how do you build it for customers' best interest? And that's, I think, what I think about it as myself. I want to always work in the customer's best interest. And to me, technology is an enabler. It's not the end. Understanding the business and understanding how to help them with the operational efficiency is the key. And using technology to effectively help that business is what I do. To me, it has been the journey of not, one is an academic journey, and the other is I've been blessed. I've been blessed with a, fascinating corporate journey that, the first thing that I would, bring to light is my experience with the Bombay Stock Exchange, which I helped in automating the 150-year-old exchange. And it was a fascinating journey. When we started the automation there, people were writing on the blackboard the price of each stock, and there was a ring. Yeah, and there was ring-based trading. So you just like the Chicago pit, people will be on the ring, and I'm sure NYSE was the same. I was just, if you just watch those people trade, it's so incredible. In fractions of seconds, they are making price determinations, and I was always fascinated with how can the human mind, work so fast to analyze market elements and quote a price, right? And we helped build that online trading system for people who would carry their stocks in bags to come and trade on that ring, to take them to the journey of online trading. And there was many aspects to it. It was many aspects of people understanding that you have to, I could relate to what they were doing, try to find how to do it in a technology way. It was mind blowing. It was absolutely fundamental to what we did, and been very proud of being on that journey. What it brought to me, and that's which is what I carry to myself all the time, is the visibility and transparency that it brought to the markets, to the world, to the Indian market that at that point in time was struggling with not knowing what the real price of that trade was. And that really rung a bell on me always. I mean, it's beyond all the tandem and high availability technology and all that. It was important. The thing that I really carry with me is this whole visibility and transparency that we got to the market. Right? And in fact, I was talking to my team, the Bombay Stock Exchange team, and we did this in '94, and we just had a Zoom call, this last week, catching up on holidays, and it was, we were reliving all those moments of, that first trade that went through that system, and it was almost like landing the man on the moon. The thrill and the excitement, whether it will happen or not, absolutely fantastic, experience, for fantastic, journey for me, that left me with an indelible lot of fundamental values. This whole visibility, transparency to the market was something that I carry, heavily with me. The next journey again was another part that was again very fascinating. I moved from CMC, that organization, we did the Bombay Stock Exchange, and moved into the larger world. So I worked with the India market, and now I was in the world market with Citi. And, so again, traveled a lot within the Citibank world on many areas: equity research, treasury, depositories, many aspects of the financial market. And then, I did a couple of big things, and again, it taught me so much. At City London, I was helping conceptualize a credit data warehouse that ran for 11 countries of the bank. And this was something that we wanted to start for the different countries. So it was like from concept. And it taught me a whole lot about the lending process. How do you give credit? How do you choose who you should give the credit to? How do you validate that these people you want to lend to are going to give the money back? What is the application process? How do you validate everything? How do you monitor that disbursements are happening? How do you see early warnings and delinquencies? And it was the backbone of my banking knowledge. And how can a data warehouse, and I'm talking about this in 97, 96, 97, and how can a data warehouse bring that data insight for risk management? So I never thought I would build my career in risk management, but these were my fundamentals. And when I look back at it now, at 2008, I always wondered, had these processes been properly organized in these organizations, in the financial organization, could we have saved the world the crisis? Had these, yeah.
So interesting. Could we have saved the crisis if things were organized a certain way? What is your feeling on that? That is an interesting question.
Absolutely.
Could we have? We
Yes.
could have.
Yes. In fact, I mean, from my understanding of how it all went, I was thinking that people were lending beyond beyond belief. And they were not even realizing what kind of concentration risk they were creating, because money was cheap, the interest rates were low, and this had happened after the internet crash, right? So the Fed had brought out the low interest rates, and low interest rates was of course important to enable the market, but it also even the checks and balances needed within the organization of not building up too much leverage, I think, failed. Nobody even saw the concentration risk. It was so funny that nobody could see that we were building all these over leveraged organizations in a bubble that went beyond and bust.
Right. There was no kind of central mechanism that kind of brought all of these or integrated all of this together, and that where bells and whistles would go off. I have another question, being that someone that like you've seen the world go through a lot of turmoil, a lot of crisis, and you were there again, helping to build the Bombay Stock Exchange. And, so where we are today, are you surprised at the speed and the acceleration of innovation? Has it surprised you?
Yes. I do feel pretty overwhelmed with how fast things are moving. I used to have a debate with a bunch of my colleagues about risk, and it and this was during the Bombay Stock Exchange times, that integrated world systems actually pass the risk around very quickly. Okay, and straight through processing actually allows that, right? So the whole world of internet and this whole world of connected systems is allowing risk to pass around very quickly. So whatever risk is created in a small bank in some one little corner of the world actually can affect everybody in the world. And that's what the crisis proved, that nobody is spared, because now we are in an interconnected world, and this is only accelerating. I mean, if we look back at my 10 years back, and we never even had the smartphone, and
Right.
and the world today, and the little kid who's 2 years old is now able to do stuff on the smartphone, and things are accelerating much faster than we could ever anticipate. And it is creating a lot of risks, but it's a fascinating thing that it's offering consumers so much more in the journey there, right? So it's also creating a lot of visibility that consumers are able to demand and get, which they would not do earlier. I think that, to me, that means organizations have now got to be gearing up to be transparent, to be able to operationally be operationally efficient and provide that service in given much shorter times than they had earlier. So earlier, for example, if you could send in your account opening request, and it could take 5 days for your AML and other verifications to come back, or you could take 5 days for your wire to transfer from here to there. All that is gone. Now everything is so instantaneous, and whichever organization can provide that is the organization that can survive. So if you had inefficiencies in your organization, you are likely to have face turmoil, you become the dinosaur soon if you didn't adapt to the change. And of course, it's scary that the change is happening so fast.
Interesting. So if you were to give advice to a college graduate right now, maybe someone wanting to enter either the field of fintech or finance, how would you map out their career journey, especially now while education in itself is being disrupted?
Mm-hmm.
What would your advice be to that person? I'm so like someone like you that has this unbelievable encyclopedia as just like a brain.
Yeah, one of the things that comes to my mind always is that irrespective of whatever subject you do, the need is that you understand technology in many ways.
Mhm.
And now it's not just knowing only your subject, but also using computers to handle that tool. So whether it be robotics and the coding there, or data analytics, or even so everybody is a knowledge worker in many ways. So all children who are coming out of college have to understand that it's not about coding as such as being able to use information and connect the dots pretty much quickly. And to be connecting the dots, you also have to be alert and aware of everything going on, right? I think that is also getting very critical, where so you need to understand a little bit of coding. If you are not at all a technology person, it starts to become a handicap for you.
Mm.
Even small things like, okay, can I build a website? Can I convert some excel into a chart? So you cannot say that any kid out of college now can stay away from technology. It's complex for children who don't want to do it, but it is kind of become the necessary thing if you have to survive the world. That they have to have some grounding on technology and able to do some things with the data. These are becoming very important for kids to understand that they can't stay out of it and make a career. So, for example, organizations now, when they look at resumes, they want to know that you are doing, you're able to do engineering. I mean, or hardcore work. So not that you're going to use that engineering knowledge, but you're going to be able to understand complex concepts.
Mm.
You're able to play with data. So my daughter, she had an internship last summer with a large company called John Deere, very very famous engineering firm. And the one thing that they were using was AI and data analytics on their combine harvester, where IoT, that the whole Internet of Things,
Right.
and the process data sets were being analyzed to understand failures.
And that's John Deere, they build equipment for agriculture, right?
Agriculture. Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Wow. So they are
Yes.
using AI, machine learning. Again, I think what you said was really cool. And that is to understand how things get connected to one another, that you might have a specific core competency in, like, let's say like hard coding, but understand what you're doing
Mm-hmm.
and how it connects throughout the whole ecosystem is what I'm hearing from you.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that is why kids have to, be smart to connect the dots.
Hmm.
Be able to connect the dots.
So speaking of connected the dots, I know that you connected the dots, Laxmi, 11 years ago, because back then you're a member of the 100 Women in Finance, which I love to hear about these types of volunteer organizations that support women. And boy, 100 Women in Finance, they have a lot more members. There are nearly 20,000 registered members. So I wanted to just talk a little bit about how organizations can really be impactful, membership organizations specific to women, either early in their career, mid-career, how they can support women. So do you want to talk a little bit about your experience and the 100 Women in Finance? It looks like a really cool place.
Absolutely. 100 Women is a very lovely organization of very high caliber women in the financial world. And I'm very proud to be part of that. I think we women in finance have a wonderful role, can be very wonderful role models for our young girls to bring in inclusion, diversity, and also investment into, various, and the challenges that are going around in the US right now. Ability to have that financial money going around for people to build their lives. I think it's a very wonderful area to work. To have women in finance is a great opportunity there. It can build very fulfilling careers for girls and women on board. can be the voice of sanity when it comes to reducing unwanted risks and giving direction to the organizations to make consumer protection as an important aspect. To me, these are what I think the 100 women, as financial women that like you and me, can help. And that's these are very good careers for young girls and women to bring in other people and bring this whole change into the world come through. The other aspect that I think are important is, as women, we understand that building our next generation is very important, and providing them that safe forward is part of what our responsibilities are. So ESG, climate change are themes that all of us women really care about, to make sure that our next generations are protected, right? And being part of those areas of work as women, we bring in a lot to it. We kind of can make the difference in guiding organizations in that direction. And for young people to join in that crowd and make that difference is very important. And I think the 100 Women is a very great platform, and as all of us together can make a lot more difference than each of us individually can, right? So I think looking at careers in finance is something that I think a lot of it would give great opportunity for young women.
Absolutely. And we'll put a link in the show notes to 100 Women in Finance. And also, I see other areas of your volunteerism in the industry, and which is quite impressive, because these are things that you've been doing. These are activities and groups that you've been supporting for nearly 14 years. You have been a Premia San Francisco Steering Committee member, which is the Professional Risk Managers Internal Association, and that you help the steering committee putting together events for chapters in the areas of risk, culture, operational risk, enterprise risk, compliance management for banks, broker-dealers, wealth management, and crowdfunding. And I guess as you were talking about women, my mind was going, it was trying to do a complex set of equation here. And I was thinking, do you see that enterprises and business leaders are paying more attention to the needs of women and our beliefs and our cultures and our values?
Yes, they don't, and I see that happen. Yes, Professional Risk Managers Association is again a very premier organization for debating a lot of the complex aspects of risk that people face. And if you see a lot of the crowd that we have in the risk management space is women. So if you see many professionals who are on risk management and compliance, would naturally be women a lot more than men. I see that a lot of times. And I guess it comes from that natural tendency to do the right thing, I would think. Wanting the organizations to do the right thing. And sometimes, obviously being pushed around as well by the men. But still trying to make a dent and making organizations follow the rule where they can. I think women have a great contribution there.
That's awesome. Really great comment. So I know that there are a lot of women listening right now that definitely want to get in touch with you. So what is the best way, before I ask you our last question here and wrap things up? You've been so gracious with your time, Laxmi. How do people learn more about you and Lemire?
It would be wonderful for anybody and everybody to connect with me. I'm always on LinkedIn, and I love to hear from people, and I always like to take the time to understand or hear what they do, because it's always fascinating for me that how many different angles at which we all come from to solve the problem. So please do get in touch with me. You can write to me at Laxmi, Laxmi at lemureinc.com. Or if you are looking to see any of our products, then happy to have our sales group reach out to you at sales@info at lemureinc.com. Or if you just want to just know something about it, you can just say info at lemureinc.com. All of these you can reach out to us. And also our website is there, which we shows on all of our products. And I really look forward to hearing from everyone, whether it's being a young college kid who's looking for a job in the financial sector, or a mature professional who has a different view of how the problems can be corrected or changed. I really love to listen to everyone on their angle of these things, because it all together we can create solutions that are hardier and more beneficial to consumer protection.
That's so great. So you listeners hearing Laxmi, you're going to get in touch with her, and we're going to have all the links in the show notes. So a question that we're asking, and I tried to change things up this year in 2021, and that is that if you could give us one thing to do differently for the next 90 days that would have a positive effect on our life, what would that be?
Tina, it's obviously all of us coming safe through this COVID risk. I think COVID is the biggest risk we have right now, in the community, everywhere. And all of our families, friends, and neighborhoods to come through safe is the most primary thing for me for the next 90 days. If we all get through this happily into the next phase, then we have a whole world of opportunities that we can take on. But I do think, health of all of us is of primary importance. And that's what I would like to, see through in the next 90 days.
Thank you, Laxmi. That was great. It's such an honor to have you here in the suite. Thank you for what you're doing to improve the lives of, again, I love the expression, the common man, and all of your success. Congratulations to you and everyone at Lemire, and to your daughter, the mechanical engineering college grad. I love it. Continued success to her and to all your family. May you all stay safe and well. Thank you, Laxmi.
Thank you so much, Tina. You're such a good friend, and you've been very, very kind to give me the time, and it's a wonderful opportunity that you've given us. Thank you so much.
Listening to In the Suite, a podcast that shares amazing stories of women in business and the financial services and the wealth management industry. Our producers are Tina Powell and Kevin Hirshorn. Our editor at large is Kevin Hirshorn. Our content writers are Carmen Varner and Tina Powell. Our research and technical assistants are Rachel Powell, Sarah Smirker, and Kimmy Rice. In the Suite podcast is sponsored by C-Suite Social Media, a digital marketing and social media agency for C-Suite leaders and companies in finance and technology. You can visit csuitesocialmedia.com to learn more. And thank you so much for listening and subscribing to In the Suite podcast. We are so, so appreciative to you. We've got listeners in 507 cities and 32 countries. This podcast was inspired by you and created for you, ladies. So please let us know how you enjoyed this episode with Laxmi Ramanath, and share your thoughts on LinkedIn and Twitter using the hashtag InTheSuite. You can connect with her, and please do, on LinkedIn and Twitter at Lemire Inc., and check out her website at www.LemireInc, LAMEERINC.com. And always, if you would like to share the name of a rock star woman in financial services that we should consider, please send it to me at tina@csuitesocialmedia.com. Again, thank you so much for listening and subscribing to In the Suite.